Today's episode is sponsored by Raul Rodriguez Law.
When you're in an auto accident, you shouldn't be concerned with legal runarounds, just real advice. You deserve an attorney ready to work for you, an attorney that won't back down.
I've lost loved ones due to the negligence of others. If you or a loved one has been injured in an auto accident, I want to be there for you.
Raul B. Rodriguez and his team care about ensuring you and your family are represented, whether on the road or in the workplace. Raul is real, and Raul won't back down. Call 210-899-0300 to schedule a free consultation.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Leija Lounge, the podcast that pulls no punches. My name is James Leija II. We got all the usual suspects in the lounge today. Let's see who's joining us. As always, Mr. San Antonio, Dean Leija. Ooh. We got the two-time world champion, Jesse James Leija, from right here in San Antonio, Texas. We got the man with the plan, Mr. Mark Solis. We also got the best guy to squirt water in your mouth inside Loop 410. Christian Castillo.
That's a crazy one. I'll take it.
We're here on location at TXI Studios. Thank you so much, TXI, for all the behind-the-scenes work, camera, mics, everything. Edits. This episode is also brought to you by Raul Rodriguez Law. Big shout out to Raul Rodriguez. Thank you for sponsoring this episode. Today we have a super cool episode, super cool guest to bring you guys. One of the only UFC fighters to be representing San Antonio. He's got a fight October 12th. We happen to sit down with him right in the middle of his training camp. The always exciting Mr. Grab Your Popcorn, the live wire, CJ Vergara.
Nice.
Hey.
The live wire.
That's a great. I was thinking about it right today or yesterday, and I was like, man, okay, CJ doesn't have a nickname. You know, like he kind of doesn't have one. What is his thing? You know, like what's his thing? What can I say? And I was like, man, he's Mr. Grab Your Popcorn. He's a live wire. You never know what's going to happen. Whenever I'm watching you, you know, the fun thing about your fight, I'm going to let you talk, but the fun thing about your fights is always just like, wow, I'll never know what's going to happen. You know what I mean? Good or bad, I know there's going to be heart. I know there's going to be a hard-fought fight. I know you're not going to give up as you've displayed, right? But it's just a live wire. You never know when it's going to
blink. You cannot blink when we watch you fight, man.
Yeah. Thanks for sitting down with us today. I know you got a fight coming up. We're catching you right in the middle of training camp. You flew into town, 2 days ago?
Yeah, Tuesday.
Tell us what you were up to, man.
So, thanks for having me. It's honestly an honor. You know, I've been around the family for, what's crazy, I've been around y'all for 13 years.
It's full circle moment.
Full circle.
They don't know this, but it's full circle,
right.
Yeah.
So I just got back from Vegas. I did something that I've never done before, was I spent the majority of the hard part of camp in Las Vegas. With the UFC, what they offer now is a performance institute for fighters. If you're on the roster, it's fair game for you. And when you go to this place, it's like this mecca establishment with top-notch physical therapy, strength and conditioning. They have a whole training facility upstairs with 2 octagons in it, bunch of bags. Like it's like, you know, Toys R Us for a fighter, you know? So I get there at 8 a.m. and they are open till 8 p.m. and you're just in it all day. And you don't have to do I'm going to Leija's, you know, to do my boxing, then I'm going to Pete's to do Muay Thai, and moving around all day. Mm-hmm. I'm in one spot.
Was Pete able to be there with you?
No, Pete wasn't out there because, I mean, he had Liv fighting here, and, you know, he's running his own program out here. But we check in with each other. I check in with him and with Ray, my other coach, let them know what I'm up to. I found a really solid group of guys out there that were training every day inside the institute, and was able to get in work with them. And what's also so crazy about being in a facility like that it always catches me off guard is, like, on any given day, there's 100 guys that are on the roster going in and out of there. And it's such good, friendly energy, dude. You know, these guys are so dangerous. Everybody in there is, like, on the roster. They're all trained, professional killers in the cage. But when you see each other, it's such a friendly experience.
Is that a new experience for you? Because in San Antonio, in this city, you are really the guy, the face of MMA, I would say UFC right now here in San Antonio, where you don't see another guy who's equaling or matching you.
Correct.
And you to have them in that performance institute, you know what I mean? Being able to rub shoulders with guys who are also great and, you know, daring to be great and all this, does that, like you were saying, it must change the environment.
It for sure did, man. And in a good way, too. like to your point, because I'm as of right now the only guy in San Antonio that's on the roster. You know, most of my training partners have other obligations, like they all have, you know, jobs they got to be at, things like that. So, you know, there's limited training slots for them, but also being at the level of fighting that I'm at versus going to the PI, and it's just those guys are a dime a dozen in there, you know. And I'm seeing ranked guys, top 10, top 5. I'm seeing guys that are former champs, guys that are, you know, 2 wins away from a title shot. So
I gotta know, man. You pull into this place. You got a parking spot?
no, but I got it. No, but I do. I'll tell you what, the fingerprint.
Yeah, nice.
I got the fingerprint entry. I got the Bruce Wayne
So
entry.
you see these guys, you know, top 10 UFC fighters and, you know, top talent worldwide. If you're watching them kind of from afar, being a fly on the wall, what are some things that you're noticing that you're like, all right, that's what makes them great right there? Is there anything like in particular?
It's so cool with mixed martial arts, with the aspect of the arts of mixed martial arts is there's so much room for creativity and for everybody to have their own subjective experience with it. There are certain guys that are former champions and you see them and they're kind of just like flying at the whim of their own handle. They're just doing their thing and it works. Versus this guy over here, he does the same workouts every day, same time. And so I try to take a little bit from everybody that I meet. And I try to, especially while I was out there, even having a conversation with somebody, I learned a couple of cool neck exercises from this guy from the Ukraine, for instance. You ever seen those wrestlers where they can stand on their head?
Oh, yeah.
And they can walk their legs around? I finally learned how to do that.
That's pretty cool.
So I feel like that's pretty cool. Things like that. Or I was training a lot with Cody Garbrandt, which was a crazy experience for me because I looked up to that guy my entire career. Some of the best boxing I've ever seen in MMA.
For sure.
And sparring with him, moving with him, seeing the way that he conducts himself, and kind of like the little switch that he does for training. You know, he's a very friendly guy, but like when he's on the mat, it's like he does a switch thing where he's like a different person on the mat than he was just before he got on the mat.
People used to ask me that too, and I'm sure they asked you the same thing. Where they always say you got to be 2 different people, right? You got to have that switch. I think even when I was training Christian before, you would ask me, someone would say, how do you turn it on for that fight? And I would always say, I just don't turn it off. Like, I'm a mean guy. Like, whatever. When I was fighting,
it's like Bruce, what's his name? Bruce Banner. I hope.
Yeah, exactly. You just don't turn back.
Don't turn it off. Secret, I'm always angry.
Stay green.
Exactly. So I was going to ask you, so you didn't take a coach out there, right? So you weren't by yourself. Did you find a coach out there that worked with you, or do you just work with what everyone else is doing?
So for the first, my plan originally was to go to this really well-known gym out there. It's called Extreme Couture's, Randy Couture's gym. And Pete had linked me up with their coach there. What ended up happening, though, after I was there for, I think, 4 days at the PI, there was a team upstairs, like I was saying. And there's a coach up there. His name's Mateus. He's from Brazil. He's actually cornered Jose Aldo for the last 3, when Jose Aldo made the move to 135, which was, I think, 2019. Really solid guy. I mean, he's from Rio, lived in Rio his whole life, whole family's out there. And then when he cornered somebody in last year's Miami card, said that he was like, you know what, this is where I need to be. I need to be in the States. So he bought a one-way ticket to Vegas and was just in Vegas, got a working visa. And now he's out here trying to be, you know, just help people improve their career. So he kind of took me under the whole month I was there, which I was really grateful for. And in any given training session, there's like 4 guys on the roster, a couple girls too. So the training sessions are intense, but there's a level of control too, which I appreciate, man. There's been times where I'll go to other big gyms, and I get in there, and it's like everybody's just ready to greenlight you, and they're ready to send the dogs on you. I don't like that personally. Yeah. I don't like to feel like I'm fighting for my life in the gym. You know, I already have to do that. When
you're not learning, really.
I don't think you learn that way. Yeah. I think maybe, and you, I'm sure your opinion on this would be differently because I know that, and in boxing too. You guys spar. When boxers spar, it's like you're like fighting almost.
Yeah. But see, here's the thing, like a trainer for a fighter, a boxer, a trainer has to be with him one-on-one. It's tutoring for that hour and a half nonstop, trying to make him better, trying to improve on his movements or whatever. And for me, thinking about you, because it's different, I know that you don't have a trainer there knowing what your strengths are or what your weaknesses are because you're new to him. Unless you've told him, this is what I do, or he's watched film, okay, this is the type of, so if I saw a fight on you, I say, this guy's a great striker. He knows how to strike well. And I'm going to work on that. Or if this happens, We get taken to the ground. I knew how, whatever it is, right? So do those guys know you well enough to say, okay, we know you're a striker, and this is how we're going to work this fight out? I don't know.
No, that's a good question, but not necessarily, right? So because they don't know me, but the goal for me to go out there was, the main goals were like be under one roof and be able to do everything I need to do, all in one spot, and just get better bodies to train with, more high skilled guys to train with, and kind of adapt to different situations while I'm out there.
Okay.
Now that I'm back, is where I kind of go over all the things that I picked up on, whatever tricks I may have learned, whatever things were working for me when I was sparring out there. I bring that to Pete, and we now have, a couple weeks to just dial in on the game plan for the fight. This is how we're going to go about it. Because Pete and I are so good at that. We've been working together for so long. I mean, as long as I've known you, I've known Pete. Him and I, he was like, okay, this is how this is the weapon that we want to use this fight. These are the tricks that we're going to use. This is how we're going to use them. And I have like this structure, and now I'm able to like go in there and just let whatever happens happen.
That's so funny for the listener. We were talking about this before we came here today, but the listener is, especially if they're a boxing guy, they would assume that you're doing everything under one roof already because that's what they're doing.
Facts.
But with UFC or with MMA, you're not going to get everything in one. You are moving around to different gyms and traveling for different knowledge bases. So for you right now, this long in your career, to say, man, I got everything in one roof, it's almost like eye-opening, right? Where boxers are almost instilled with that feeling of everything's
for
right here.
years too. You guys have had that. You guys go to the same gym.
It's always
Like when
been
you
that
were
way.
in your same
it's always
gym
been
twice a
that
day.
way. Yeah, but you have to go. I mean, I was telling James about this. Sometimes you gotta go to a striking coach. You gotta go to a grappling coach or a kicking coach or whatever, and that's time.
And then wrestling.
Yeah, you gotta do all those.
So when I fought in Miami, I was doing, I think I was working with you my Miami fight.
Yep.
I do my privates with him, and then I'd go to wrestling, which is in freaking shirts, New Braunfels Academy, and then Pete's, and then like my strength and conditioning. So it was like 2 hours
all over the track.
Put in some miles.
Does that like having everything in one spot, does that make camp easier? Like
So much
overall?
easier.
Like,
I will say that. Like it was just.
You probably just have to train for an hour and a half or so, right? Or do you train for 2 hours?
No, I would do I was telling Dean and James I would do the class, my 10 a.m. training session, go downstairs, straight to strength and conditioning. After that, I get a smoothie, and then straight to PT. And then after that, I can do like red light therapy or sauna and cold plunge.
Wow.
And the next thing you know, it's 4 o'clock. I've been there since 8 a.m.
Yeah.
I got 3 workouts in. So it's nice to have that.
It's a full-time job.
And that,
It's always
clocking in, clocking out. So it's nice to have that as a fighter in Vegas too.
Definitely.
And
It's not only that, but it's also the opportunity to build camaraderie
for sure
with the other fighters on the
100%.
card, and like as you said, you're picking up, you're asking them questions, man.
Right.
It's kind of like going to school, I guess. In a
No,
way,
it really is. And like I'm having conversations with guys that are in the same weight class as me.
Yeah.
We might have to meet in the future, but like I was saying, like there's this like camaraderie, like you said, where everybody's still wanting to learn from people. And so I'm learning from you. I'm talking to guys from all over the world. The UFC is so worldwide now. So I'm meeting guys from Ukraine, guys from Brazil, guys from China, guys from Canada. It's pretty cool.
And it's all respect mainly because you've gotten that far. You've managed to be here, right? Where, like you were saying in boxing, for the big difference is you go into someone else's gym or you go into other gyms and they're already matching you up. They're already looking at you like, what would I hit you with? Whatever. Either way, size you up.
He drops his jab. Every time he jabs, he drops it. I'm a counter.
And that's any boxing gym. That's what turns a lot of people off to that, right? But with you, it's so cool that you're saying that because it's like, man, I'm walking into guys who are seeing me as their equal.
Correct.
Instead of, I'm going to beat this guy. Whatever.
Exactly.
That's kind of cool.
Was it, did you spar a lot of different gyms when you were coming up, or were you guys controlling where your partners were and things like that?
No, it wasn't really when you're an amateur, you just show up and you spar with different guys, different gyms. But when you're a pro and you go to a gym, usually the time I already had sparring partners set up for me.
Were these guys getting paid to spar with you?
I pay them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You would pay. I pay sparring.
Who was your
partners.
toughest sparring partner, do you think?
So it was funny. When I was fighting Azuma Nelson for the first time at the Alamodome, my manager Lester had this fighter named Golden Johnson, who was 19,
Golden Johnson.
who was 19 years old, and his mom named him after Golden Richards, who was a Dallas Cowboy wide receiver in the 70s and 80s. And anyways, so Golden was hired by Lester to come and spar with me. Guy was a 19-year-old beast, like strong, fast.
How old were you?
I was probably 25, I think, 24, 25. And this guy was just, we hired him to come and just beat me up if he can.
Oh, really? Okay.
And so we had wars. And he was a thuggish guy at the time. He came in and it was like, wow, this guy's
rough around the edges.
Rough, really rough. And
he had no edges.
Me didn't care about anything. Just wanted to spar and he loved fighting. He was so good. And we became great friends after that. Great friends forever. And I talk to him twice a week, 3 times a week. We still talk. He lives here in San Antonio. And just a great guy. He's fought Sugar Shane Mosley.
Oh, really?
He was also
he
the
had a
sparring
really
partner.
Fought Margarito in Madison Square Garden.
Do these boxers make careers out of being sparring partners? Can you?
Oh, guys. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You can make a decent living off of just being. It's a rough life.
It's a rough life. There was a guy. What was his name?
Emmanuel Augustus.
Emmanuel Augustus, who was a great fighter.
The Drunken Master.
The Drunken Master.
Logan, I showed him Emmanuel Augustus and tell him that you told me that he's like one of the weirdest fights you've ever had. And every time I show him Logan, he's like,
yeah. But we've used that so many times. Even when I was fighting, we used Emmanuel Augustus of this is how loose you have to be.
Yeah. So cool.
So
I mean, seriously, to be able to exist like that,
they would call him
free.
He was the drunken master.
So cool watching that guy
Great
fight.
fighter, but he lost a lot of fights because of his style that the judges did not like.
Correct.
But he won so many fights, and
right.
a lot of times he took fights on 2-3 days' notice. But he was so good, he probably lost most of those fights. But if he had 12 losses, he probably lost maybe 3 of those.
You think that's just the politics of boxing?
Oh yeah,
they want like the
they don't want to see a guy.
Right.
He was so. I mean, he played around. He just joked around too much in the ring because he was so relaxed and so calm that judges don't like that. They don't want that. So they would any close round he wasn't getting.
It's the same thing with Prince Nassim.
Exactly the same.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly the same. But this guy was a lot more.
Especially in that era where it was kind of really polished boxing.
Super polished.
Yes.
Where right now it may be highlighted nowadays.
Like what? Like this is
right
like
now
80s, 90s?
Right now he would be so big if he was fighting that way right now. I mean, he'd be bigger than Jake Paul.
Whoa.
It's Christian's favorite fighter.
His favorite fighter.
Future boxing.
Right, there we go.
Future undisputed cruiserweight champ. Jake Paul. He's going to beat Mike Tyson November 15th.
And Mike Tyson's 80 years old.
Hey,
so you mentioned Madison Square Garden. There's only 2 people, and you can try to guess who those 2 people are that have fought in Madison Square Garden. Not me. I'm not one of them.
Christian.
Maybe.
One night.
So I want to hear y'all's experiences of you as a pro debut or UFC debut fight, walking into the Garden like that. Can't imagine. I want to hear my dad's stories too, but just what was that like?
I remember vividly, specifically the when you go around the back of the Garden, where you're going through the back, and then that tunnel that you walk through, it gets really skinny and like it's all concrete, and it feels super old. And I remember thinking to myself, like, how do these basketball players fit in this narrow? It's narrow and it's like kind of short.
It's like cold too, probably.
It's cold.
Yeah.
But when I was walking through that hallway, I'm thinking, dude, like, Michael Jackson's been in this tunnel. Michael Jordan's been in this tunnel. All of like any great performer I can even think of right now. Ali's been in this tunnel. Yeah.
He said Diddy.
He did say Diddy.
And his
P.
friends.
Diddy's been in this tunnel.
Yeah.
So it was like this very narrowing thing. But then when I turned the corner to see like it all unfold, the machine that is the UFC, I saw that in motion for the first time. And I'm seeing like everybody from the state. I'm seeing people walk around with hand wraps, referees, and there's just like this crazy commotion, that I had never experienced before because, mind you, I'm fighting at Cowboys Dance Hall. Like 2 years before that, I'm fighting at small venues that hold 1,200 people. Yeah. And then before that was at the Apex, but that was during COVID, so there was no fans. So it gets cold in the arena when it opens up, and it's just like this machine that starts turning.
Were you locked in mentally when you were walking through that tunnel?
Yeah, mentally when I was walking that tunnel, but I will say that feeling of where like before when I was fighting the Cowboys, I was able to stay right here always, no matter what, because there wasn't much going on around me. but this level of like stimulation was extreme. And Pete always prepared me for that. He always kind of beat it into my head like, it's a fight, dude. It could be at MSG. It could be, in a parking lot somewhere.
Yeah.
It's the same fight. So all this other stuff outside of it is not real. You still have to be in that octagon by yourself with this guy. So we did. I feel like that was beat into my subconscious my entire pro and amateur career. But even then, that level of like seeing that, and then also it's a cool thing is like when you're opening the card, they're doing the mock walkouts of the main event. So they're like playing the main event's music throughout the arena, and they're having like employees do like a pretend walkout, and they're getting all into it and stuff. And they're announcing them. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
So and then they put you in your locker room. Now I got a guy with the state with me, attached to my hips.
Yeah.
Got to watch me piss and the whole thing.
Yep.
So that was like different for me to lock in, because then I got to go sign my check. Here are your gloves. Here, this is what you're going to use for the reps, whatever. And but then once I start warming up, do the breathing exercise, that's when I start to
The
feel
familiarity kind of kicks in for you.
I always do this thing before I fight, and I've done it since I was an amateur. I will stand in front of the mirror in the bathroom, and I'll have a conversation with myself out loud.
What do you say?
It's always the same conversation. It's this is gonna hurt. This might, you might not look the same when you get out of this. You might break something. You might tear something. But if I can still see him, if I'm still breathing and I'm still conscious, I'm fighting back. That's it. And all I have to do is be invincible for 15 minutes.
And that's something that is
awesome.
so obvious when we watch you too.
Right.
It's
So it's like I make this agreement with myself, like, hey, and it's happened. I've broken my hands, I've broken my nose, I've gotten dropped. It's all happened.
But you told yourself that.
But I'm like, I knew this is what I signed up for. This is what I'm here for. So if I'm still able to look my opponent in the eye and be aware of my surroundings, we'll fight back.
You didn't only sign up for it at the beginning of your career. You signed up for it right now.
Right
today.
now, right.
I made that agreement right now.
Correct. And so I've made peace with the pain of it. I've made peace with the good and the bad. And in the worst case scenario, I wake up and I'm like, what did he hit me with? And that's as bad as it can get.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like whenever I accept that, it kind of gives me peace of mind. It's like, well, that's where I was saying we have this structured game plan, and now I'm able to step in there and just allow what's going to happen next to happen next. But then when I walked out, that was crazy, because I wasn't able to see the arena before the walkout.
Wow.
I'm just in the back.
Oh, really?
There was no like
All that preparation, and boom, you see the light.
So then like when I saw the
Are you
garden,
following someone out?
yeah, and like there's cameras, right?
Right.
Like cameras like this, big cameras, and they're giving you like, the UFC is like so precise. So like you're walking out in 4 minutes.
Yeah.
You're walking out in 2 minutes. Okay, follow us to the tunnel. We're stage you right here with this. Stand behind this red piece of tape, and they give you like a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown. They're like walk, walk, walk,
At
walk.
3, 2, 1, does CJ's music kick in?
Yeah, the music kicks in, and
That's like, hair standing
I
up,
always
right?
tell people, like, in that moment, if you haven't done that, the closest thing, and I haven't done anything close to these two guys, but that little moment is almost like you get strapped into the roller coaster, and you're there, and you can't get out because everyone else is in line, and you're here, and you're on your next,
And you're on camera.
and you're on camera, right? And everyone's watching you go through the roller coaster,
And it's live.
and there's no going back. You know what I mean? Once
And
that,
some of those people are hoping that the roller coaster falls off.
exactly, they're hoping somebody says, "Oh, this isn't going to work."
Yeah.
We got to get off or whatever, and
you
That's a
remember
good way.
this too, like when you're walking into the arena, the mic, like when you can hear the announcer speaking, it's like it's all echoed throughout the arena, and then the garden is like it's like a sunken in thing. It's so you can see the whole thing in front of you.
And it's this history, and
Right.
it's the Mecca, as they
Right.
call it, right? And
Yeah.
it's New York. I was there for James's fight, and I want him to kind of share his story. But that is an unbelievable highlight of anyone's career. In the music business, there are performers. There's quite a few different facilities to play in the New York City area. Of course, there's Barclays, beautiful facility, first class.
Right. That's right.
And, a couple of others in New Jersey. But people, musicians, artists will want to perform at Madison Square Garden at least one time to say that they did it. Man, just walking into that place, I can just the excitement that you must have felt, the thrill, and it's your very first one.
Right.
Holy smokes, man!
That's crazy.
What was your experience like in MSG?
Well, we were there like a week before, or maybe 10 days before the fight, and we had a hotel across the street, which was kind of nice. But it was in January, so it was snowing.
Oh wow!
So it was pretty cool, doing the whole thing. But as for the fight day, we walk across the street. We didn't even drive. We just walked because it's right there, right? So we just said, let's just walk. So we walked, and while I'm walking, the whole group's with us. I don't know how many. There was 10 or 15 of us, whatever. But I'm walking, and I started thinking, man, this is like coming to America. Snow.
Right. What year was this fight?
This is 95.
Oh, so the movie just dropped like 2 years.
Yeah, I think so. And it was like, man, this is like coming to America. And you see everybody walking around. Everybody's excited. I look up and I see my name on the lights. I'm the head. I'm the main event again.
The main event. So I was the opening act. He's the main event of it. It's
Yeah.
two completely different
So you
experiences.
see the main, and I'm like, wow, that looks cool. I think we took a picture. Back then, it was the
Those small little cameras, yeah.
Disposables?
Disposables, yeah. I think that's what we took the picture with. And so it was cool. But then we get into we walk in, we're going to that same tunnel. It's real small and dark, and you get in. But at that time, when you're main event, everybody's just like letting you go through, and everyone's like high-fiving you good luck, the whole bit. So once you get into as we're going into the dressing rooms, you walk down the famous hallway, and you see all the posters of all the fights that's been there, or all the performances. You see Elvis, you see Muhammad Ali's all postered, and just walking down like, wow, I'm gonna perform here. Like, we get to do this too, and I was like, you just get like, it's just crazy to see it because you've done it. Like almost like, okay, you've made it because you're performing here, and you're like, wow, this is cool. And then we get into the dressing room, and it's an old building. It's an old building, right?
Very old building.
I forgot, was it green, like lime green walls or whatever in the dressing rooms, and we just sat down, and I lay down and I tried to take a nap for about 30 minutes or so, just to relax. I'm reading my books. I always read books every time I was in the dressing room, and just hang out there for an hour and a half, warm up, get ready. I don't like to go out and look out there or anything like that.
Right.
But I've already seen the arena. The day before, the day of the
weigh-ins,
we go, and my manager always wanted me to get into the ring, walk around, feel the ropes. That way, when I get there the day of the fight, it's not like fresh to me. And I get to look around, imagine all the people around, get to feel the arena, and that's what we always did. We did that with James too. Like, get in there, walk around, feel it. So it will be the first time on fight night.
Did you see any cool faces when you?
Yeah. During the fight, when they call us, and it's kind of funny because I always tell people it's just like walking the gauntlet, where you got an hour before the fight, and you're laying down, so you're not even doing anything. Then it's 45 minutes. Okay, get up. You start putting on your shoes, put your shorts on, and they start wrapping your hand. And then it's 20 minutes before the fight, and you're like, wow, okay, it's getting close.
Yeah, that countdown.
Yeah, that countdown, and then
you're being pushed towards the edge.
That's what I'm saying. Then 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Already at that point, we're hitting mitts, warming up, breaking a sweat, going through the game plan. You do mitts for about 30 seconds. You sit down, get some water. Do mitts again, 30, 40 seconds. Sit down, take a break, stretch out a little bit as much as you can, get as warm as you can. And then 2 minutes left. And then we're going on. HBO is going on live at, it was HBO fight. Yeah. HBO, we're going on live in 2 minutes. Get ready. We're all ganging up. We already said our prayer. Everyone's together. And then, all right, 30 seconds, we're walking out. So that's the dressing room's full of workers, or the camp. Everyone's there, families in there. And all right, we're out. Boom, and everyone just starts walking out. The music kicks on. And I think at that time they may have had the curtain. They open the curtain, you're like, everyone starts cheering, and then you start waking up, walking, and some people, yeah, I always, it's always like when Jesus was in the crucifix and people are yelling at him, some are crying for him, some are cheering him on, and you almost feel that way, like, wow, we're walking this, you're going to knock out, I hope he knocks you out, and good luck, and whatever. You hear everything coming at you.
All these guys are focused on y'all.
Right.
Yeah, everyone, and then we get into the ring. I started moving around. I already felt the ropes, but I still want to feel it.
Is it cold?
I don't know. I can't remember.
You're probably warm.
It's hot in the ring because of the lights.
The lights, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
It's 15 degrees hotter inside the ring than outside.
I didn't know. That's cool.
And so, I'm walking around, feeling around, and I'm looking around. I I can't. There's an older movie star, but every movie star, Magic Johnson, all these huge.
Who are you fighting?
Oscar.
Oh, that's when you fought Oscar. Wow.
Huge. And you see everybody like, wow, man, everyone's here. Like,
so this is when Oscar was like at the height of his name, right?
I think like he sent me, or we had seen it. Oscar had put it on his Instagram that his favorite New York fight was against him. It was the first time that 2 Mexican American fighters sold out MSG.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it was
pretty
cool.
cool.
And then, my thing was like, to me, my thing was like, if people knew what I went through to get there, like,
yeah,
it was tough. I only been fighting for like 6 years, I think. And I turned pro at 22. I started fighting at 18, and I was 25, I think, when I fought him. I think I was 25, maybe 20, whatever it was. But I was like, wow, man. Like, I gave myself an underboy at that point, and I said, let's go, come on. So I went after him. I knew he was tough and was strong, but I said, I'm going to go after him. And I went after him. Even when I got dropped, I went back after him. That's all I could do is go after him. Instead of retreating, I was going after him. And it would have been a better fight if I had more experience. I just didn't have enough experience.
Of course.
Yeah, to do it.
I've always wanted to ask you this because with you reaching the height of boxing that you did, and when I think about you and the time that you were at your peak, you were like riding the coattail ends of like the giants before you that are the Fraziers and the Alis and the Listons, and when boxing became like this massive thing.
Yeah.
But boxing is so ancient compared to the UFC. It's only 31 or 30 years old now. It's so ancient. So when you're fighting at that level and you're walking out and it's like you're really standing on the shoulders of giants that were like, just like I said, they kind of like pushed you into the game at that point. And you're also fighting during the Gotti era. Help me out here.
He's got De La Hoya. He's got Whitaker, Chavez,
Mosley,
Tyson.
Yeah,
I mean,
all the Hall of Famers in that era.
There's so many names to pull from that era that you're a part of that I've always wondered, like, did that ever... Did you hold that consciously? Were you thinking about that? Were you thinking, like, I'm a part of this legacy that is going to be stamped in this really specific era of boxing? Or was it just... Were you just treating it like... Were you just blue-collar about it? Like, I'm just here to work?
But at that time, I'm not thinking about any of that. Like, I had just... Hagler and Sugar Ray Leonard for a few years before that, in the 80s, late 80s. But you had, Bam Bam, Boom Bancini. You had
Pacquiao.
You had all these guys. Pacquiao was after us. He was just starting up, but he was still behind us.
Oh, was he? Okay.
All the guys in front. It's just the great fighters. Obviously Joe Frazier, Ali, all these guys were coming off their height. We're coming off that and trying to carry it on. You had Terry Norris, Sugar Ray Leonard,
Ken Norton,
Tyson, Ken Norton, all these guys you're just coming after.
This is when the highlights started going towards the lower weights.
Right, exactly. Because it went from the heavyweight, because at that time
Chavez,
it was like
who did Chavez? I was on that era, and they were tough. But I never thought about it. I just did my job.
But it was a big deal, man. I mean, there hadn't been a boxing event at Madison Square Garden in 10 years. This was the first fight back. So they called the fight, the event was called Return to the Mecca.
Cool.
And then it had Oscar De La Hoya, Jesse James Leija on the poster.
Posters in the 90s were the best.
Yeah. Merch.
Back before
the
t-shirts.
shirts.
The digital era, it was all t-shirts and posters.
That's all it was.
Whenever I see like a 90s boxing poster, I'm like...
But that's like you, though. You're starting your thing, too.
Yes.
And all these kids get to see you and say,
Very true.
You're in rare air.
Very true.
So, like, it's almost... I was going to say, what do you think about it? Because, like, you're almost leading the way for this area, especially, right? Where you've reached a height and you were with a company that no one else has really done. Like, people have done it, but not to your level of it. What do you feel? Because you're leading the charge now, right? So how much is that lost on you, or is it really a thing in your head right now?
I think the only place that holds a space in my heart is when it comes to Logan, because of my ability to take something like nobody in my family had done this. I didn't come from a line of fighters. I didn't pull from anything. This was just kind of sparked in me, and I just stuck with it, for better or for worse, you know. And there's been a lot of for worse moments, you know. So like, I mean, you know, it gets kind of it's so hard to maintain this level of intensity for so long. So I think of it like I've been able to trailblaze in a way that is something that was spoken from within me, that I pushed through, was never going to stop. So to make it to this point, to at least show him, like, whatever it is, doesn't have to be fighting, but whatever it is, you can achieve it however you want without having to pull from anybody else. Yeah. But now, like, to your point is, dude, guys are doing MMA and jiu-jitsu the way that we did football and basketball. Like, these guys are training when they're 6, 7 years old. At the PI, I'm training with guys that are still amateurs. They're like 18, 19 years old, and they're training with Brandon Moreno, and they're training with Aljamain Sterling, and like top 10 guys, and they're not even in the UFC yet. They're still amateurs. They're training with the best in the world. Jeez. When I was, you know, I think I started training at 18. MMA wasn't really that popular, so yeah, I'm like the first wave of guys that was able to get specifically MMA training, because like Pete's time, it was like you did boxing, you did wrestling, you did jiu-jitsu, but there was nowhere to put it together. So when I came into it, it was like it had all been put together finally, you know. So I feel like it is really cool to be at this forefront of mixed martial artists and to see what proceeds behind it, you know, and to be able to do it at this level with, like you said, in this city, to where it hasn't really been done quite like this yet. Of course, Alex Hernandez is, you know, another name that comes to mind, where him and I are like the only guys out of San Antonio that have really done it to this level. I do think about it, and I try to remain grateful. I try to remain humble for it because of it. And it also is like an extra piece of motivation when the motivation's not there, you know?
Like, whether you like it or not, you're going to be an OG.
Right.
In this, you know what I mean?
Unk.
Yeah, you're going to be that, you know what I mean, for that next group. And you're going to have those things where you're going to say, well, see, you're able to train in a facility that has everything nowadays. But back in my day,
we had to walk towards every gym uphill.
Yeah, I was riding my bicycle.
Yeah. But you know
what? I'm going to add an exaggeration layer every time.
We're talking about this and just kind of different eras, right? But now it is this present era. You do a really good job on your socials. The creativity behind that stuff, is that all you? And
yeah, man, I've always been a bit of a charismatic guy.
And you're a great talker.
And there's a performance thing about me, you know. One of my first passions in life was acting, to be honest. Like,
wow.
So I've always loved the camera side of things and like, you know, improvising and whatever it is. So yeah, I think the last few months I've slowed down with the social media presence a little bit, because I think there's a balance to be had, and lately I've just been focusing on my job more so. I think that as an MMA fighter now, especially with, it's like an attitude era with, because WWE and UFC merged. You know, it pays to be a performer now.
Yeah.
But you can very easily forget that, you know, you're going to get kicked in the face on Saturday night.
Don't forget what brought you here, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's so easy to forget about it. So I'm still working on, I'm always working on finding the balance. I think we all are, right? And lately I've been more focused on just the grindstone. But I have it, you know, I do enjoy the creative side of it, and like you said, the social side of it, to be able to have fun with it.
And I think that's important. I mean, that is the era now. You have to promote yourself.
100%.
Your performance in the ring is gonna, or the octagon is gonna dictate your future fights, right?
Yep.
But it's the social media stuff helps you with your brand, with your name, with the exposure, and I think that just elevates you out there. And you do some things that I think are very unique and a little bit different than some of the other UFC fighters out there. So
for sure,
you need to be commended for that.
No, yeah, and it's also like that side of it. You have guys, and I've seen it, you know, they don't do well in interviews. They fight really well. Yeah. Maybe they have exciting fights, but you maybe even never even heard of them.
Yeah.
Because they get on the mic and they can't. You have to put like a exclamation point on it, whatever it is. Yeah. You saw that guy on. There's this guy that went viral recently. He fought for Fury, and they asked him how the fight went, and he he crashed out. He was like, "These bitches keep breaking my heart."
Oh yeah.
You saw it. There's like 100 million views already, dude. Like throughout the internet. Like that's one way to go about it. But then you've got everybody that does their own thing. But if you can have an exciting performance and then get on the microphone and say something that people can attach to that performance and say it in a way that resonates with whoever it is, dude, you've just upped your brand.
Yeah. But I think it's a good thing for you too, because you have a good way of selling yourself, and I think you can sell a fight. So you're an asset for Dana, for the UFC, without a doubt.
I see you with something like this. I see you with something like this, you know, in the future.
For sure. I would, let's start a podcast.
Yeah.
I'm with you, bro.
I tell at least, a couple homies that every day. I have one good conversation, like, we should start a podcast.
So I have a question for you. So your son comes to our gym and he boxes.
Dude, he's hilarious with y'all.
Yeah.
Dude, that guy loves being in the gym with y'all.
He's so cool and so...
You forget how old he is, too.
He calls you senior. He's like, I gotta ask Senior about this because I've been thinking about this. I'm like, who's Senior? He's like, oh yeah, Big James.
Yeah.
What?
No, it's like, would you, if you wanted to box or MMA, what do you say?
I say yes, and we've had this conversation. But with Logan, what I tell him is, I want to make sure that this isn't you doing something that you don't realize you're doing it for me, right? Mm-hmm. So when I see you, I'm like, what are you doing? You're like, oh, I just ran 3 miles. Or I've been shadowboxing for an hour. Or, oh no, I don't want to eat that. When I see it from you fully, where I'm not like, hey, don't forget you have to run today. Don't forget you have to do shadowbox today. Don't forget you have to do this. When I come into your room and you're not playing Xbox, but you're watching, Bivol, like that's his guy right now, Bivol. So you're watching Bivol highlights, or you're trying to emulate him. That's when I know that the spark is in you. But if it's like, if I'm going to pull you up to get you up to go to the gym, like, for what? Yeah. Like, just keep doing this for fun right now. But if you want to turn it on, and I see you turn it on, I'm all for it, And I feel like because I have y'all as well, like, I feel so connected to everybody in the gym, and so does he. If he were to go that route, we already have the avenue, you know what I mean?
We had that conversation before where I was telling you, me and my brother are somewhat in the situation of your kid, of Logan, right? Of like we see our dad doing something crazy that no one else is really doing in the city, right? So what do we do? Like we know that we're from that tree of greatness, right? So we can't just not be great. Like we're from that tree. We have every opportunity to do it. And it's a tough spot. It's a tough scenario, depending on how you see it, right? I mean, like we always say, you're one of one in the city, right?
Right.
So your son is going to have a very different perspective than all of his friends in school.
I feel like you do a really good job at explaining that, too, what that's like.
Because it's tough. Like, anybody watching right here, you know what I mean? All of our viewers, anybody watching this, is not going to be able to sit in my seat. They've never, or his seat. They're not going to be able to relate. You know what I mean? We have some, like, big names in the city or whatever, like, David Robinson's son, all these other guys, whatever. They're the only ones that I would be able to maybe relate to. Man, you know what it feels like to sit in that seat a little bit, that hot seat. And no one else really has that experience unless you've been there, right? Where, okay, you've seen that person go through. What are you going to do, right?
And they do that to you since you're a kid, too, right?
For sure.
Like, I've seen Logan. I've witnessed it through him. You're like, since he was 8, like, oh, yeah, your dad, man. Your dad right here, he's a bad man. You're going to be like your dad?
Exactly.
It's like little things like that.
And any sport that he plays, everyone's trying to beat his ass because of you. So to a much lesser extent, I think I've spoken on this before, but Bronny James, the whole Bronny James situation, right? Everybody's assuming, man, look at all this highlight he's getting right now. Look at all this spotlight that he's getting. I wonder what he feels. I wonder if it's rocking him. He's been having that since he was born. He's used to it by now. It's nothing new to him, maybe on a bigger platform, but he's already so...
He gets compared every day.
He gets compared every day. People have been wanting to beat him up. He has the same name. People have been wanting to beat him forever. You know what I'm saying?
He was in Space Jam.
Was he? Yeah. So, like, for me in my situation, having to following my dad's career somewhat and boxing in the same career, it was tough on me, but at the same time, I'm like, man, y'all been wanting to beat me since I was in middle school. Y'all been wanting to, whatever sport I played, him too, whatever sport we played, you've been wanting to beat us because of him. You know what I mean? So this ain't anything new. Like the pressure's been on already. Like we know how to adapt and we know how to do this. And I feel like that could be Logan's side of things. You know what I mean? Where he's grown up and seeing his dad be successful.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
That's something that stood out to me too. And for Logan, I think it's a good advice to be able to explore the different meanings of success and what success looks like. Because I know for us growing up, we compared success to being, famous or people knowing your name. You're walking around, people are saying your name, but I have no idea who they are. That's how we kind of define success. And you're not successful unless, your name is somewhere out and people can recognize you. But at the moment we moved from the south side to the north side and I went to a different school, I'm going to school with kids whose parents are lawyers, doctors.
Okay,
and I'm seeing that form of success.
Yep.
And I'm like, wait, this guy's not famous though.
At
like,
all.
He's not, but, he has a beautiful home, he has a beautiful family, he has, beautiful cars, this and that, however you want to define it. But when I saw that, I was like, oh.
Your
okay.
definition of success.
Everything
evolved,
changed.
right?
Everything
Yep.
changed for me. It was like, oh, I have a good home, I have a great wife, I have a beautiful family. That's success for me.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And I think for Logan, as he's growing up, I think being able for him to see, you don't have to follow my steps to be successful. You can have a great job, you can be just a great person, a great husband, a great whatever. That's success too,
100%.
Yeah.
And that's
it took us a while to learn though.
I have a conversation like this and like this with him all the time because it was so funny whenever he was like, I want to be a professional boxer. I'm like, why? Why would you want to do this?
Right.
There's a side of me where I'm like, this hurts, buddy. Like, this is not. A lot of times,
I don't know why I do it, but I'm doing it.
Dude, no, exactly.
Right.
No, it's too late now for me to turn back. But I always really connect to the whole idea of UFC fighters being the closest thing to modern day gladiators. Well, if you think about what a gladiator was a slave, right? And they were always fighting for a chance that they could be freed from this. And there's some weird, romanticized connection between being a fighter, I think, for me at least. As much as I love what I do, I feel like there's nothing else for me right now. This is all I want. But there is a weird enslavement I have to the game. I have to see this through. For better or for worse, I'm going to see this through, right? And I have goals, and I have checkpoints that I'm hitting, and I'm on this, and I've beaten my body to shit to get to it. I put myself through hell and back to make it
Real
to
quick,
this
how
point.
many surgeries?
I've had 7.
Jeez.
You know what I mean? Since I was 21, I think it's the first one. And so,
The moneymaker's fine though.
the moneymaker's good. I got a little crooked nose just to let people know, be careful. Don't get
I
too.
didn't think it was crooked. I just thought you were talking to us.
Yeah. That's why I keep doing this over here. Keep the good side. But and so I tell them I'm doing this. I'm doing all this so you don't have to.
That's what he always says.
We all say that. That's our
yeah. I'm like, so why do you want to do
and
this?
you saying that makes him say, "Well, I want to now."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, though, but if it's something that his heart desires, I think it'd be cool. I feel like if our sons really have it in them, I always see Logan as the better version of me. Anyways, I'm like, you're just you have all the best parts of me with none of the little shadows of it. So if you do want to be a fighter, you'll probably be way better than I ever was. At least.
Well, if he does decide to do it, whatever that is, right?
Correct.
He's got a great teacher to help lead him,
Yeah.
So
I'm pretty good. Yeah, I'll say I'm pretty good.
Yeah, Dean's great.
That was one of the things that we had done early on in my career. My professional career wasn't long, but when I was training with him, I was like, man, I'm starting off where you ended. It's almost like you're teaching me everything you know right now.
Pass the torch.
Yeah, how can I not be good? You know what I mean? And not only that, how can my work ethic not be good? I'm doing everything he was doing, right? But the hard
We
part,
had to slow him down.
yeah, he had to
slow
actually
him down, 'cause
cool
he was
me
doing
off
too
a little
much.
bit, which was good for me. It was good and bad, but at the same time, everyone around us, and that's a hard spot to sit in when you're Logan, when you're me, when you're him. You're working so damn hard, right? I'm busting my ass every day. I'm doing everything he's telling me to do and more. He has to slow me down, but everybody around me is thinking this is all set up for me. Everyone's gonna, and that's what really made me have to make that disconnect of who cares what they're thinking.
Facts.
You know what I mean? I'm able to look how I look right now and able to walk how I walk right now because I don't care what anybody's thinking.
It's a very good point.
With all respect, even everybody here, I don't care. You know what I mean? It's one of those situations where I have to walk my life. I have to walk my walk. You got to walk your walk.
100%.
Right? And that's what really helped me elevate that mental thing was he knew how hard I was working. He knew what was going on. Everyone who cared around me knew what I was doing. It didn't matter what everyone else said. And that's the hard part with the Bronny James, with your son, with all these things who want to do that. that's eventually you're gonna hit that wall.
Especially now in the age of information, dude, everybody can chip in on what you're up to.
Exactly.
And it's a weird, blurry line to not let those, like you said, like my family says I'm good, so what does it matter?
What does it matter?
Guy's talking
Right.
about?
I don't even know who you
I
are.
can imagine Logan. I won my first fight, whatever it was, right? People texting, or people were saying, "Well, you gave it to you because you were
Yeah,
dead."
of course.
But you know how hard he was working.
Well,
You think you're gonna let him?
typing or that's
That's-
texting? Oh, I'm sorry,
They're over
texting.
here,
You're
dude.
doing this one.
yeah, he's doing
that one. I was typing. I'm sorry.
That's
He's doing Morse code over there, bro.
Yeah.
They're gonna call in.
He's
and
on
they're
the
gonna say,
laptop. That's a laptop. This is a laptop.
Yeah, I was laptoping.
His laptop.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things of life of just being next to a successful person. You're gonna have to live with that too, right? Everyone wants to throw stones until you sit here, and that's when you kind of realize, man.
He's in good. Yeah, they went through it. He's in good. Even playing football, whatever, baseball, anything they played. They say, "Well, what would your dad do?" Well, and that's not fair to anyone, especially.
It's like
kids in
I
school.
was telling Bam Rodriguez he was in our previous podcast, but off camera, I was telling him he just had a daughter. And I was saying, man, me and my brother are in that same situation your daughter's in. You're building something for him, right? For her. It would be weird if she didn't take advantage of it. This whole podcast right here, right? This whole thing is built because he laid the groundwork.
Correct.
And we're trying to do something
100%.
with it. You know what I mean?
That's so cool. Like to be at the original gym on San Pedro, to see where it is now. Every time I show up to the gym, it goes back to what you're talking about when you think about success. Like when I walk into the gym and I see you, both your sons, your wife, the dog, the kids, all like the familiar faces.
Christian squirting people in the face.
Yeah, the top level
Hey,
of
don't worry what I'm
Top
doing.
level squirt.
waterboarding in the gym somewhere.
Right.
It's like, and Logan says every time we're there, he's like, man, I love this vibe in here. This is so cool. And it feels like a home. It's so, again, it goes back to the groundwork that you laid out. And I don't know if you imagined 30 years ago that you would have this new avenue that you have now, which is like this gym, which is like it's so much more than a gym though. Because you're in there, it's the same energy. You guys are playing basketball in there like every day. It's
I mean, he's a testament to it. Christian's a great testament to that.
Like I just walked into the gym and then slowly started training. And
How old were you?
I was 15.
so this is what you were
This was
15
about a year
2 years
ago?
ago.
So this is last week. Yesterday, actually, yesterday. I just walked in and you were just sitting at the desk, which is funny because now you're always busy. Like it just as the gym's grown, and I walked in and we scheduled a private, and then I started working out and just absorbing boxing, like y'all know, getting addicted to it, and then slowly
Did you have any experience before that?
No, so like you said, you did come from a line of fighters. No one in my family had ever boxed.
Wow.
I was like, I sounded crazy to
What made you want to go to the gym in the first place?
I think I admired boxing, like, and the
Okay.
way like you have to show up.
Right.
Like there was an all access clip with Mayweather where he's like, it don't matter what time it is, I'm clocking in.
Yeah, it's like
'Cause
2 a.m. He's like doing
Yeah.
running jogs.
And that's like it was like that. Like no matter what you're going through, or like you gotta show up. And so I was like, I did that, and then I trained with him for about a year, 8 months or something. And he was like, you want a job? And at the time I was working at SeaWorld.
Oh yeah, what are you doing? Lifeguard?
No, I was a cash register, and I was giving away free food. I was just giving away.
Dude,
I was,
he's still paying back.
It was like,
Free food
it'd be like a family of 7. I'd be like, y'all like Jello? They'd be like, yeah. I'd be like, yeah, $7.95. You're good. Just keep going. And then
Someone's got to do it.
I didn't even. But I accepted the job at the gym before I even quit SeaWorld. And then I went to SeaWorld the next day. I walked in. I was like, hey, I'm done. And he was like, actually, we wanted to fire you. Like, I was like, oh, this works perfect.
Actually, you owe us $4,000.
It was something like.
We caught it all.
You're supposed to like get fired at
All
like,
Jello.
you get fired at like 15 points, or like you're starting talking to. I looked at my account. I was like at 70 points. I was like, okay, let's just go separate ways. And then I was like, this works good. I was like 15, telling this Linda, right? That was the manager's name. I was like, Linda, listen.
Listen, Linda.
And then I showed up Monday, and I haven't looked. I had no other job. I've just been.
I appreciate all the free raps that you've given me, by the way, dude.
Yeah,
it's
sliding,
easy.
sliding. And then and
And the
now
free
I'm
rides on
here.
Shamu, that was really cool.
But it's fun. Like you see, like you even see, like I say, the gym's not a gym. It's like a cathedral. Like because it started and it builds, and now everyone that's in there has an emotional connection to it.
Big time.
Like even you say, like everyone's fight's different, whether it's like
100%.
MSG or like the guy that's just here just because he's trying the day pass. He just wants to try it out.
No, for sure, man. That's what's so cool about boxing and the way that it is at your place. And I remember there was a video from the old gym that used to circulate on Facebook probably where you'd be like, you could be boxing next to a guy that just got off his 9 to 5, and on the back next to him is a pro that's getting ready for his fight. And it's like you said, they're both fighting their own fight. Like this guy just dealt with so much shit all day, and this is how he's choosing to let it out.
I would say there's a CEO, a housewife, a guy working for the city, a plumber, whatever, and they all have a different fight.
Yep.
Like we just got our hands on Chris Paul last week.
Yeah.
And he's had 5 hand surgeries.
Hands on Chris Paul.
Yeah, you got your hands on Chris Paul.
Hands on Chris Paul.
Both of y'all got your hands on him?
I worked with him.
Yeah. And he's had 5 hand surgeries, right? And he was just kind of going through it. And this is
hand surgeries, huh?
He's had 5 of them.
Really?
And he was hitting kind of timid, kind of new to all this.
Sure.
They did mitts with him, and at the end of it, he came up to me and he was like, "Man, this is great therapy." Like just right off the bat, just in the little moment that he got out of it. You know what I mean? He said he had done it before, but man, there's nothing like that. There's nothing like that outlet. You know what I mean? With what you do, with what we do, there's nothing like it. And for Christian's point, being at that point now where you're helping at the gym or you're working at the gym, you're behind the magic now. There's no better feeling than to help someone else fight their fight.
Big time. And it's like you were telling me last time we had a conversation where I asked you, like, on the days where on the days when your mental health is like you're not there, like, what do you do? And you told me, like, I just allow myself to live through my clients for that hour, like whatever their woes are, like I want to be that right now. And I'm like, man, it's that give and take that you get, because I've had I worked at the 1604 location for 2 years. I was coaching there and I loved it. And I've also coached for Pete. I coached the kids program, and there's this like weird relationship that I would remember I loved so much where I'm training somebody and I'm talking to them about fighting. I'm talking to them like, you need to keep your hand up here because when this happens, and I'm like, this applies to so much more than I don't even think I'm talking about fighting right now. It's just like a life thing that we're talking about here. It's like, if you don't put this hand up here when this happens, it's because you're avoiding this. And it's like, ooh, what am I avoiding? What am I talking?
Exactly.
It's this weird, as much as I'm teaching you, you're also teaching me in the exact same way. That's what
we always say. The majority of our trainers at the gym have been past clients, because the best way to learn is to teach. You know what I mean? Like, you got to walk the walk.
100%.
And that's what you're feeling, is you're teaching somebody something and you're realizing something. You're teaching yourself almost.
Correct.
You're learning by teaching. And that's such a good feeling, you know what I mean? There's no other feeling that I've come across like that.
You know what else is super cool that I've been able to experience is, like, when I was training at San Pedro, I did all my privates with you. This is when I was a young amateur. And then when you opened up that spot downtown is when I kind of started working with you. And then at this gym I started working. I've had like a lot of one-on-ones with each one of you, and it's so cool to see the trickle down of how the knowledge.
Well, which one's the best?
Is
like all
expressed
three
differently.
It's different. I think it's all different,
right?
Yeah.
Right here.
The whole thing about CJ that we kind of got connected on was, my dad was in his corner for a while. He was in his camp, you know what I mean, in his corners and all that. But CJ would ask me more about how I was thinking.
Sure.
And that's when we connected, was on our mentalities. That was kind of like, oh, it's another good-looking guy. It's another guy who's kind of unique and kind of out there and doesn't really care what anybody's thinking. He's creating his own mentality. You know, he's not following suit of maybe what came before him. He's at the ground of whatever he wants to do. And I felt the same way. That's how we kind of connected mentally. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's all different. Like with him, he's a very, I'd say my dad's a very, how would you explain it? It's
grindstone, man.
Very grind.
It's you're here like there with Big James. It was always like I was in and it was like work, and you're working to the bone, right? But it's like the groundwork that's necessary. You got to build a foundation. With him, I had such a solid foundation of hard work, where like I'm so grateful for that time period with him and Pete, because I would work with him and it was a brutal hour. And then I'd go with Pete, and Pete would beat the brakes off me in sparring. Yeah. Never held back. This guy's 190 pounds. I'm 19 at the time. 134, right? So I was getting this really, like, they were carving me out into something, right? And then it was a conversation that I had with him one day. I'm like, hey, so it was like that. It's like, so what do you think? Like, how do you feel about this? And with James, we've always been able to bounce off the creative philosophy about fighting. Like, why are we fighting in the first place? what does this mean about us? You know, what does
Why
say?
we're here?
Why? So we're sitting there with our gloves on, cross-legged, like this. We're like, why? Right now. So when we do our
therapy session,
it's also hard work, but he's really good at being like, hey, did you notice that you did this? Why? Like, where's that coming from? Why are you pulling back there?
Is that just a reaction, or did you think about it?
Right. And he's making me ask myself that in real time. And I'm like, that's a great question. So when I leave from him, I'm like, I have all of these thoughts that turn into conversations with myself.
Mentally exhausted.
Correct, right? And then with Dean, I feel like because Dean is the youngest, Dean is really good at just pushing the envelope on, this is what you're really good at. Let's just focus on that, right? So, like, and Dean's like willing to allow you to not lead the dance, but he's like, yeah, I think it's cool that you decided to do that. Let's see what that looks like. Why not? Yeah. Also, you're really good at this, so like, if you thought about just doing that more of that, because that works really well for you.
Yeah.
So trust what you trust.
Kind of like a free spirit.
Super, bro. But it's like it's just like it's so interesting the way that it's all tied to the grindstone.
Yeah.
But then there's like a spiritual awareness in it, and then with that, there's like the ability to like create your own freedom with the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I like to be able to go to the gym.
It's a holistic approach at the Leija
really
Boxing
is.
Fitness.
Yeah, no, it is. So like I go and I talk to you and I ask you like, what do you think about this? And which you're always gonna get a straight answer. He's like, oh no, don't do that. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I ask him this, what do you think about this? He's like, well, what do you think about that? You know what I mean? And so it's that legacy and the way that it is expressed throughout the gym, and then seeing guys like Christian and Chris, and like these guys are all like a chip off of that expression. It's just
and you're part. I would say you're definitely a big part of that. What's the word when you graduate from an institution? You're a part of that.
What is it?
What's that word?
You're like a
cool.
We didn't graduate. We went to school. Yeah, we went to college.
You're a part of that
alumni.
Yeah.
Lineage.
That's a good pull.
You're a part of that alumni.
That's cool.
You know what I mean?
When you're in an auto accident, you shouldn't be concerned with legal runarounds, just real advice. You deserve an attorney ready to work for you, an attorney that won't back down.
My parents are from the west side of San Antonio, and they taught me the value of hard work and fighting for what is right.
Raul B. Rodriguez and his team care about ensuring you and your family are represented, whether on the road or in the workplace. Raul is real, and Raul won't back down. Call 210-899-0300 to schedule a free consultation.
CJ, I wanted to ask you here, we're talking about social media, how active you are, and really how I think you do a pretty damn good job on it, man.
Thank you,
You really do a good job promoting yourself, and you're a good talker, and I mean that in a good way.
Right.
You have a gift for it.
Thank you.
But with all that being said, right, social media and the comments and the trolling before the fight, after the fight, especially after the fight, depending how it goes for you, right? Everything else maybe happening at home with your son, and how do you deal with the mental stress, the mental health of it? Like, what is it that you do that works for you? That's something maybe you can kind of share with us.
Sometimes it depends. Sometimes I don't deal with it. I mean, sometimes it deals with me. For instance, during fight camp, I am plagued by insomnia. I mean, like, plagued. There'll be nights where I'll sleep 2 hours in 3 days, and it's just no matter how much melatonin
your mind is just
I
going.
take, and it's not even. Some nights it's excitement. Some nights it's like I'm so happy. Oh my gosh, it's like mania in the middle of the night. I'm like so grateful. Like I have so many ideas. I want to, and then other nights it's like, what if I fuck this up? What if like all this was? So it's like, there's that side of it where like honestly sometimes I've had to accept the monster of this whole thing, the shadow end of it, where it's like, you're not always going to be the even-keeled kung fu master that's just, stroking his beard and just meditating, right? It's, sometimes I'm going to just be at the mercy of whatever this experience is. Something that I've grown to find very therapeutic is running. I've always been a runner from fighting, but I decided to train for a marathon last year, and it gave me something to... Sometimes I need to separate myself from the identity of fighting. That is really healthy for me. I like to take that
it's a
mask
quietness
off.
too, though. Running, right? It's just you and your thoughts.
Correct.
Yeah,
Sometimes
you see
no
cars
music,
and you
right?
hear things going on, but
Running
you're
hills.
just by yourself.
You're in your head, and you can really piece it all together. And after a certain amount of miles, you start to strip away certain thoughts you were having when you started, and then you're able to just let it go. And so, running for me is like a way to, like you said, you're running, but you're for now you have to be with yourself. Of course, you listen to music maybe, but sometimes I won't. So running's been really therapeutic in that way. I dabble in video games, of course, but for me, I think the healthiest thing is sometimes when I leave the gym or when I leave a training session, I don't even want to exist as a fighter for a while. Yeah. I want to go home and watch this football game and or watch this movie and not exist as a fighter because I have to put that hat on back in the morning again anyways.
So you're able to turn it off.
Turn it off. I have to.
Yeah.
I love going to, I haven't gone in a while, but I love going to music festivals, like EDM festivals, live music, things like that. And just existing with, hanging out with friends or, Logan or just getting out and being...
Trying to be normal.
Just be human, you know what I mean? This is a human being and not feel like I have to... Yeah. There's so much pressure that I put on myself as a fighter already, every day.
Yeah.
Every single day I'm like, did I run enough? Did I spar enough? Did I train enough? Did I eat this? Did I drink that? And so I'm already going to beat myself up regardless. Right. So sometimes I'm like, I need to take that off for a second. Because if you don't, what I've learned is you can run yourself into the ground before you even get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah.
And I've done that. I've put so much pressure on myself that it's like a crippling anxiety that you can develop. And if you don't find ways to just turn it off, for me, then I will malfunction after all,
Sure.
It's its own art form of being able to do what he said one time in a podcast, or I forgot what it was in an interview. Imagine you're in school, right, and somebody says, I'm going to fight you at the end of the day, but you have 2 months to think about that fight.
Dude, that's such a funny thing. It's so true.
It's true, right?
So true.
And people always say, I'll fight him and I'll fight Mike Tyson for a minute. So no, you won't, because you got to get ready for 12 weeks. And in those 12 weeks, you get beat up by somebody, so you can get ready for Mike. And it's not even Mike. I said, you got to get, every day you got to wake up to get ready for a Mike Tyson. You wouldn't even do it. You wouldn't last
so
a week.
funny.
You wouldn't last a week.
Because everyone thinks,
but out of us, if someone came up to me and started fighting me, I'm going to fight. I have
right
to.
now,
right?
yeah, you're here. You don't have to think about it.
I had nothing to think about it. It's a reaction.
It's like, hey, let's fight. All right, cool, let's fight.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll see you in 3 months. You're like, wait, what?
Exactly.
We need to start processing.
That's what I was telling people.
Think about it.
Like after when you're in school and someone said, "Wait till after school." Man, it's only 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And you had all that time thing. But if he came up to me at the end of
just punch you in the face
at the end of the day and said, "Let's fight," boom, it happens. You have no time to think about it. But boxing or getting ready for a fight is the worst.
Yeah, it really is. And you have to I think for me, and there's that whole martial arts aspect of it that all these Bruce Lee movies and stuff where you have to really evaluate yourself. But as a boxer too, you have to really know who you are before you get in there, because it's just you, man.
Or what you're capable of.
Right.
By learning, you're like, oh man, I'm better than I think I am, or I'm pretty good. I'm not bad, or maybe I shouldn't be doing this, but I'm gonna give it a try. It's that confidence and that positive.
But you know what? There's also that cool side of fighting that there's something that's going to happen in there that you don't even know you're capable of yet.
Yeah.
You're going to find out. Like when Azuma Nelson knocked you out cold, and then you just resurrected, and was it at the 8? It was was it the first or second round that you got knocked out?
Yeah, it was the first round.
It looked like he knocked you out cold, but you got back up. You said that you don't even remember that rest of the fight.
The next 6 rounds, I was out.
That's the crazy. That's probably was that the
ago.
craziest you've ever been knocked down and got back up?
Well, yeah, that was probably the worst one. That I got hit, and when I got up, I had no idea where I was at.
So you can't train for that.
No, yeah.
It's like
so is it just muscle memory?
It's just instinct, I guess.
Instinct.
But see, not everybody
just
has that.
instinct, I
Not
guess.
everybody's gonna get up from that.
Yeah.
That's where that's the part of fighting where you're not gonna know
the coolest
until
thing
after.
too is you're out. What is your body gonna do?
Right.
Like your mind's not. Your mind. If you're in full control, you say, "Okay, we gotta get up." But your body, you've been training so hard that your body's just gonna get up because that's just what it does.
Training the legs.
Yeah, you see that in football players, right? They get knocked out. They get up and they're walking. They have no idea why they're walking. But
Concussed.
Well, listen, we talked a little bit about it right before we started this. Your San Antonio fight,
Right.
which
oh yeah,
It was fight of the night.
well, and and
The
some
track-
people
the
argue
track
and say,
meet of the night.
you know,
Track me in that, yeah. I mean,
fight,
that's why I told
one
you
of the fights of the year, come back of the
5K
year.
then, bro.
So you talk about that, right? You're down, man.
Right.
What's going through your head, and how do you process that at that time? Are you going on instinct, muscle memory,
Survival.
survival? Walk us through that.
I have a tattoo on my leg, and it says "Found in Death," and I took it from excerpt of this Japanese text that I read for samurais, and like the samurai would go into a state of meditation every morning, and their whole meditation was imagining themselves dying in the worst ways possible too, like, and I think the proverb, whatever you call it, was the way of the samurai is found in death. Each day, and then I'm going to butcher this part, but a samurai sits with his mind and imagines his own death. Death by swords, death by falling, death by fire, death by drowning. What are the worst ways a samurai can die? Okay, well, in your mind, take yourself through that process and know that is going to be one of the outcomes, right? And make peace with it. So now you can go about your day knowing, hey, I might get stabbed at the end of the day, and I've already accepted that. And that really stuck with me, because when I'm in fight camp and I'm doing like my visualization, I like to take myself to really dark places where it's like, how bad can this be? And what would that be like? Like, what happens if I got my orbital broken in half by this guy's shin, but he didn't knock me out? And I can feel my orbital moving around in my face. Then what? What did I do? How do I react? So I put myself in all these really do or die situations in my head millions of times throughout camp, and then I have that conversation with myself before I walk out, where it's like, don't forget what you made peace with. But then when it comes time to like you actually get hit, what's cool is like it's happened twice in a fight. When I fought for a title in Houston before getting to the UFC, I got knocked down twice or three times in that fight, and I realized right then and there was no part of me that was like, oh no, I'm scared, or like, oh shoot, I can't win. I remember thinking to myself, I need to get away from this motherfucker. I need to like I need to get away and throw something at him. But there was no part of me that was like, how do I get out of this? Or how can I find a way out? There was no quit in it. And the same thing here in San Antonio. And when I got hit with that first spinning heel kick, I always tell people I didn't even realize I was hurt. I thought I tripped. And so when I got back up, I knew I was hurt because I saw his eyes. Like, his eyes I could see the white on both sides of his eyes, and it's like he was salivating. And I remember thinking, I think he just hurt me. And so, and then I thought I kept tripping. I was like, oh no, I'm hurt. I can't, because I thought I was tripping over my feet still after I got up. I'm like, oh no, I'm actually hurt right now. And this guy's like foaming at the mouth. And then he dropped me again. And the second time he dropped me, that was the first time in my career where, like, I was able to have a full conversation in, like, half a second. I remember thinking, like, damn, not here, not in San Antonio,
not this
not in front of everybody, not like this. I don't want to go out like this. But I can also hear the referee, Jason Herzog. Before you fight, the referees have their own way of communicating. And they always tell you, like, hey, if you're hurt, I'm going to say, fight to improve your position. I'll say that a couple times. If you start hearing me say, fighter, I need you to fight back, that means you're not doing too hot and you're not showing me that you're in this fight. So you're almost there. Now, if you hear me say, I'm going to stop the fight, you've got like 3 or 4 more strikes before I pull you off.
There's that much verbal in it.
There is a lot.
Wow.
Yep. So when I got stung and when he blasted me the second time and I'm having these thoughts, I remember kind of seeing Herzog, and Herzog's like, CJ, I need you to fight back. And so I like reached for a hand or something, tried to get back to my feet, and then Herzog was like, keep fighting back. So he's letting me know, like, good, keep doing that. So I'm like, cool. So I separate. Then Buddy kissed me with another spinning heel kick to the dome. And again, it was the same thing though, like that last one. I remember thinking to myself, like, damn, this is bad. Like, this is really bad. So I got up.
What round was this?
This is round 1, dude. Okay. We're like 2 minutes into the first round.
CJ, while this is going, listen, this is great. The way you're describing it, and in a masterful way. I mean, it's you, it's your story. But are you hearing anything out?
Oh, for sure.
You are.
You can hear like a pulse.
Okay.
It's like a it's like a big pulse though.
Yeah. In your corner.
It's so
no,
quiet.
it's like the
it's so
crowd.
quiet you can hear everything.
I can't hear my corners anymore.
But you're hearing the
I can hear the crowd, like, it's like the crowd is like this big freaking mushroom bunker. It's like just existing.
It's like if someone
together.
put the speaker up.
Yeah, it like blasts up. So every time, that's another way I know I'm like, oh, he's, because the crowd is going insane. I can feel it, you know? And, but Herzog's telling me, like, keep fighting back. I need you to improve your position. No, he never said that. He just said, keep fighting back. So then, when he ended up taking me down or something, then he takes my back, dude. So he's got my back on the mat, and I'm so out of it that I didn't realize that the choke was in. I didn't realize I was getting choked until I was like, I can't breathe. Now I have to fight this choke. So then I fight the choke, I get the hand clear, I separate, and when we both stood up, I saw him stand up, and he took this big belly breath, and it was like that foam in his mouth was gone, and it's like the light in his eyes. He was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And in that moment, I was like, I think he's done. But then the bell goes off, and then Pete was like yelling at me. He was like, he's done. This is all he had. And sure enough, I was able to come to him between rounds. And when I came back into the second round, I was like, oh, he's done. And I'm still here. And honestly, I'm not tired because all I've really done is run for a little bit, but I didn't really have to fight that much.
What's Pete telling you in the corner?
Pete told me, that's it. That's all he's got. You ate everything he had to throw at you. You need to go get his ass.
So he's
now.
giving you that reinforcement that, hey, man, this is the guy spent. It's your time now.
He was like, look at me. Because I like to stand up in between rounds. I don't like to sit down. It's just something that I like to do. And he was like, sit down. And he was like yelling at me. He was like, that's it. He's done. He gave you everything he had. And now it's your turn to go out there and get him. And sure enough, like once I went out there, you could just feel it too. Like, you know this too. Like, I can feel when like the momentum's not mine.
You feel it switch over though.
Yes, and I can feel now that you don't have the same like health bar that you had at the beginning of the first round, and my health bar is still here.
Well, there was an energy when that round started. I was there for it, and there was an energy there that I remember it just, you know, I think for me I was thinking, how are you gonna come out?
Right.
Right? Like, are you done? Or are we going to see something else kind of really cool? And it was awesome, man.
You know,
it was
that
awesome.
type of fighting, it always reminds me of the quote, a coward dies 1,000 deaths, a warrior dies one time.
Wow.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's something this generation needs to learn. You know, this generation of fighters or whatever.
It's different. We talked about that. Matter of fact, today we're at the gym and we're watching fights. You know, Daniel Red Lopez
And Salvador
Sanchez. Like,
these are guys that viewers aren't going to hear about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And these are fights that you need to study. These are fights that
greats. I mean, great technique, hard punchers, the best at their era, 125, 130 at the time. Everyone knows Salvador Sanchez, but Daniel Red Lopez from Arizona, I believe, Phoenix, I believe, just great technique, great fights. Warriors, both of them, no quit, and it's just masterful to watch. And you see these guys, and James and I watch that. You don't see that today. And boxing, these guys will never take that type of punishment and keep fighting. They won't do it.
I have this theory that there's not as many fighters now as there was. There's a lot of athletes now.
Yeah, that's a
I
great
have
point.
athletes.
That's a great point.
In the UFC too. Like, don't get me wrong. There's always going to be that dog in there, but not as much as before. Like when I look at boxing from the 90s, when you look at basketball from the 90s, when you look at any sport from the 90s, football, all of it, there was. Look at nobody acts like Ray Lewis anymore on the football field. Like not publicly or like it's not as extreme as it was then. But when I grew up and I was watching, that's who I was idolizing. I was idolizing guys like Arturo Gatti, where I'm like, not so much. I wasn't so much. Or Tyson, like I wasn't so much caught on by like the finesse and like all the pretty stuff. It was more like, no, these guys are psycho in there. Like you have to take their heart out of their chest to get them out of the fight. That always drew me in. And so I've always looked at the UFC and this journey that I'm on. I always say it's a suicide mission. I'm just wherever this guy's at. I can't wait to meet him. I hope that one day I get to wake up and be like, what was that? What just happened? You know, you earn your shield that way.
Yeah.
I don't want to like skate by with these safe fights. I'd rather die trying in the process and find it, you know?
Well, and that's something I think I did too. That's why I fought all these guys, because I got to try.
Yeah,
And you never
seen
quit.
that fight.
You never quit. I mean, that's the thing with both you guys, and you see this with certain professional teams, and coaches are always telling people, and for you, it's instinctively in you guys, but there's no quit there. Mm-hmm. It's like you fight until it stops, whatever that is, right? And you did that brilliantly, man, and you just kept
at the same
turning
time,
it around.
Bro, at the same time, I'm not saying I'm willing to die in the ring.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. I would never say that because that's not.
But would you?
No, I have a family.
That's the
I have a family. I tell people when I retire, they're gonna get. They got to. If I have fans,
right?
They're gonna get a new fighter to be a fan of or whatever. Anything can happen to me, or if I lose, I'll go to the next fighter. So, I could be a loyal guy, but fans are fans. They're gonna they love boxing. They're gonna change it. So I'm not gonna give my life in the ring when I have a family. That's not right. It's my job. I wouldn't expect you to go to, an office appointment and die there because it's your job. Or wherever. I'm not gonna die in my job.
I think there was a fight that I was in. One of the guys came up to me one time in a face-off, and he goes, "I'm ready to die," and I was like, "Great, okay,
makes it easier for me."
I was like, "I'm not, so it's good for you." Whatever.
It doesn't make people. A lot of fighters say that, and I always tell them, "Do you really mean that? You have kids, you have a wife, you have parents. You really mean that you would die in a fight to prove a point? No, you wouldn't do it. You say it and it sounds good, but come on, you got a family. You're not gonna die because if you lost, they're gonna go find another guy that's undefeated that they're gonna like, and well, I used to like CJ, or I used to like Jesse James, but he's lost, so I'm gonna like this guy now.
I'm willing to get concussed.
Once or twice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, you're willing to go.
Get knocked around a little bit.
You're willing to give everything you have.
Yes,
but not your life.
There was we were talking to Sean Elliott a couple of weeks back, and he was saying, like you were saying, even in all sports, it's different now, right? Like they're seeing a lot of athletes, where he was saying, in basketball you see a lot of two-way players, but that term wasn't coined back then. Everyone was a two-way player. Right now in fighting, you see a lot of this guy's a dog.
Right.
Everyone was a dog back then.
Right. Good point.
That term wasn't.
That stands out now.
Yeah, it stands out. Oh, he's ready. He's willing to fight. Well, everyone was back in the day.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And that's the cultural difference right now in any sport, like you're saying. But
you think that's just a reflection of the times?
Yeah,
definitely.
I think
100%.
it's because it's that.
We talked about this today.
Yeah, it's that thing where when you get hurt now at school or wherever, the teacher, it's how you're doing okay. It's okay. Let's take off.
That's how Dean had it.
Or you're in football. or you're in football.
That explains a lot, Dean.
You're playing a sport nowadays and you get hurt. Oh, come on, sit down. Let's relax. Get someone else in. But back when we were playing, and I was in pot winning football. I was 12 years old. You got hurt and you're bleeding. Go back in there.
Yeah,
go.
literally. Yeah.
You got your bell rung. You're okay. Wait
one's
here.
not right or wrong.
Have a sip of water.
Yeah,
Go back out.
One's not right or wrong, but you can't expect to develop a dog that way. You know what I mean? Where right now everyone's saying, well, why aren't they fighting this way? Why aren't they doing this? Well, you got to look at the times. You know what I mean? It's not built. It's not built the same. For some people, it is, and you'll see them rise. But it's
Bob
different.
Dylan trying to tell us,
Dylan, do you quote Dylan?
The times they are changing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Times are a changing, man.
So you have a fight. You have a big fight coming up, October 12th.
Mm-hmm.
What do you know about this guy? What do you you're not gotta go over a whole game plan, but
No,
what
sure.
do you know?
To be honest, I know that he's a muscular, heavy striker. However, sometimes I get a little too over analytic about my opponents, and I'll build up false ideas of who they are.
Do you watch film?
I overdid it in my last fight, and I gave the guy that I was fighting so much credit that when I actually was fighting him, I'm like, damn it, I gave you too much credit, and now it's too late. Like, I'm behind. I lost that fight, So, I know a little bit about this guy enough, but I let my coaches tell me, this is what he's good at, this is what we're going to avoid, this is how we're going to approach it. So he's got a really good resume. He's making his debut in the UFC, but he's 17-2. He's got a few finishes, and he seems like an exciting fighter, so, we'll meet him in the middle.
What's that approach like? You're fighting a guy who's making his debut, right, in the UFC. He obviously wants to come in with a splash, whatever. What is that? How do you internalize that? What do you feel about that?
Yeah. To me, it's I keep repeating this thing where it's like, welcome to the show. Let me show you how the show works here. because this is my 7th fight for the UFC. So I've seen the machine, I've seen the MSGs, the Apex, all the arena parts of it. I've seen the good sides of it, fight of the night. I've seen the bad sides of it. I've been submitted in the fight. So, like, I've already experienced the best and the worst.
And this guy doesn't come out. This guy doesn't come out trying to prove a point like, I'm good.
Right.
He's going to try to push the envelope a little bit more.
Correct.
And those are times when you catch guys like that making mistakes.
Over anxious.
Yeah, and he has a natural way of. It's just like if you see the way this guy's built, he's like really muscular, and just like we were talking about, he's just built to sprint, built to throw everything into everything, which for me it works in my favor because I've developed like a calmness about me over my career, and I've been in those really bad situations. So, okay, well,
there's nothing this guy's gonna do to the
that I haven't already seen, right? So I've been working on being sharp, throwing everything down the middle, staying relaxed, keeping something between me and whoever my sparring partners have been, and just ultimately it's Pete always tells me that you got to go out there and do you. It's such a basic thing to say, right? Like go out there.
But like
and
I
be
always
CJ.
say, and you know it, the hardest thing to do and the hardest person to be in this world is you.
Big time, especially when the stakes are so high. That's what Bruce Lee would always talk about, right? Like I can go out there and do all these flashy moves, but is that really me expressing myself? Am I really being honest?
Exactly.
So I have being so much knowledge that I've gained from y'all, and then Pete having such a pedigree of striking, Rodrigo with jiu-jitsu, and all these other people that I've learned over the years. I have such a broad understanding of mixed martial arts, and I have so many different bags to pull from. So just being able to go in there and just expressively creating something, letting it just at that point, just let it happen with what will, which will be a knockout, right?
Are you from the last fight? You kind of learned from that, right? So do you change anything going into this one and the day of and the way you zone in, or are you doing the same thing?
Just less overanalyzing what could go wrong, what will go right.
Okay.
I've just been staying present, doing my best to stay present.
I like that,
right?
Man.
Like just since I already know the anxiety and the pressure and the sleepless nights and all this, so what if I'm just here as often as I can be? Just I'm here right now.
That's going to
happen.
happen. That's going to happen. It's
and
part
what's
of the
crazy
thing.
about the fighting is that when it's over, you're like, "What? It's just over now." You hype this thing up in your head for months, and just like anything else, it's just like done.
That was what he would tell me.
It's just over.
So do you, when you have that talk, October 12th, with that mirror, talking to yourself, is it the same, or are you going to add something else to
It's the same formula.
Cool.
If it hurts, keep moving. If you're bleeding, keep moving. If you're breathing, keep moving.
Sweet.
And if you wake up, it was that Russell Crowe in that scene where he's like, if you wake up surrounded by beautiful green trees, well, don't be worried because you're in Elysium and you're already dead. And he's like, it's like, hey, man,
embrace it.
You're fine. And that's the beauty of it is like, regardless, I'm going to walk out of that octagon and be able to learn from whatever happens in there.
Definitely. Is there? I was talking to one of your trainers a while back, maybe a couple of months back, and he enlightened me on something that I hadn't really thought of.
Oh yeah, you and Ray linked.
Yeah. In boxing, when I'm 33, you're 33.
Right.
We're ancient in boxing as far as the ages go, right? But he was telling me 30s are prime for MMA, for UFC, for MMA stuff like that. Why is that? Why do you feel that is?
He has a really good way of putting it that I never was able to quite articulate, but he says, like, when you're in your 20s, when you're in your early 20s, you have all the physicality and all the oomph, but you don't have the knowledge yet. You don't really know. And then when you're in your late 20s, now you're building your fight experience. Now you've still got that 20 years spirit, but now when you're in your 30s, you no longer depend on that thing that you did when you were 21, where everything was like 6th gear.
You've already shed that skin.
Time. You've already shed that skin. Now you're moving into a time where you've figured out what works for you, how to smoothly operate your engine, and now you have the skills that you've developed throughout all of your 20s. You have all of your jiu-jitsu. You have your base of whatever the styles are that you've studied. And you have the experience. So, and because, fighting smart has become such a popular thing, it's honestly the way to go. Like, training smarter, not just beating yourself to the ground every day, all day. You're able to like make your career, like you can prolong your career. And now with like stem cells, red light therapy, cold plunges, like all these different ways to keep your body sharp. You've got guys that are fighting 36, 37, and they're still like looking like they're priming. You know, the UFC takes care of us with supplements too. I got like taking like 30 different pills a day of supplements, fish oils, and all this other stuff.
Is that something in your mind that you can take to this fight? I think this guy's in his 20s, you know, you're in your 30s, and it's one of those situations where you've already been there, like you said.
I always quote Bane when I think about these situations where I'm fighting guys where they're like swinging with everything, where it's like you fight like a younger man.
Yeah,
nothing held
exactly.
back. It's admirable but mistaken.
Yeah.
So, to me, yeah, if you're going to come out here and just think that throwing all the kitchen sinks at me in the first 30 seconds is going to be your go-to, well, that's great for me, I guess, you know, because I'm anticipating that from you. You know, I'm calculated, but at the same time, we can go there, too, just as quickly as I can be calculated and play from the distance and all that. I love being in that fire, you know. So, yeah, I think that now where I'm at, and I've had the wars, and I've had a couple flawless performances where I took no damage. I've had a couple fights where I was like a little stalemate. So, you know, nothing's new to me anymore at this point.
Yeah.
I'm 17 fights into my pro career, you know. And then I had like, 9 amateurs?
Wow.
So I've got some fights on me.
It's the artwork that's almost finished.
Right.
And when it's done, that's who you are, and that's what you become.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. You just add a little pieces here and there.
Yeah.
How long do you see yourself continuing to fight at this level?
56.
Yeah, I would say.
At this rate.
Yeah. Stem cells, man.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You know, I've
Street beefs.
I feel like yeah. Going into boxing next, boys. What do you mean?
Yeah.
I've always thought that like 37. I guess in my head, I'm like, I feel like 37 is a good time to figure out. Right. I'm 33 now. 5 more years. Would be 37, 38, but at the same time, who knows, right? I don't know how I'm going to be feeling, and I feel great right now. I don't, like, despite all the injuries I've had, I don't have any, like, I don't walk around with a limp or have really bad swelling on my knees all the time. Like, my joints feel great. I can still run 30 miles a week and train all the time without feeling like...
Well, you hit your 40s with the knees, right, James?
Yeah. I won't say, right? But, you know, I'm just building whatever I can with this, and then creating a financial stability from it along the way, and then, you know, laying the groundwork for what's next, which who knows what that is, but I'm sure that
acting,
journey,
doing TV, something like that.
whatever it is, man.
You'll be right here with us on the couch. You'll be right here with us.
Right here.
Yeah.
We're just going to be here every day.
I'll be
Yeah. Welcome back.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll be like an episode of Family Guy. It's just cutaways and this whole thing.
Yeah.
Any real idea, though? Any real, like, kind of, like, inkling of what you might want to do?
I'd love to have something like what y'all have, man, especially with Logan being as like into the sport that he is, you know. I've always admired the way that you've laid it out, to have some sort of a mecca for yourself, to whether it's a gym or some sort of a wellness center. I can see myself going into commentating for sure too, or just becoming a personality of the sport in some way. Yeah. But besides that, again, it's like, or just completely branching out in something completely different. Commercial real estate, I don't know, whatever it is. Learning how to invest in properties and things like that.
Accounting.
Yeah, that's my next hat right there. Going back to school and doing
crunching some numbers.
Mm-hmm. With the cigar and the visor and a little, like, you know.
I'm interested to see you off the chain, because right now, of course, like your personality, you can speak really well. You still have this thing about you got to fight at the end of the day, right?
Sure.
Where you off the chain, not having anything in the back of your mind, just you being you. I can't wait for that.
Dude, me
I
neither.
want to see that.
You being you at 190.
No way. No, but see, that's one thing I will say. I will, and look, you can speak to it. You're in shape right now. I will never allow myself to not be in shape. That's one thing. It's like, that's a no.
That's why I started the gym, so I could stay in the gym.
For sure, man. That's one thing that, like, if there's a core staple about me, it's like, and I tell Logan this all the time, I'm like, you're never going to be able to beat me up. I hope you know that.
Nah.
Not going to outrun me. Don't even try to.
That's what he said. He tried that on me.
I told Logan, too, I was like, hey, if you ever, the day I wake you up or the day that you come home and you're taller than me, We're going outside.
Oh,
Yeah, we're going
it's
outside.
street beefs in our backyard.
Street beef.
He's like, are you serious? I'm like, I'm serious. He doesn't know if I am or I'm not, and I don't know if I am or I'm not.
Sliding on the elbow pads up like
Yeah.
the copper fit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who sprayed icy?
No, but I
don't know.
agree. Like, you're right. At the end of the day, I have to.
Yeah.
So I'll do 1 year of like a sabbatical. I'll just wild out for a year.
Yeah. Why
I'm
not?
gonna get a
Bro?
head tattoo.
For sure. Why
Maybe
not?
go out and brew some coffee with Bam.
Dude, I'd like to have my own brewery. Actually, I would love to have my own line of beers. I love beer.
Are you? Me
Craft
too.
beer,
Are you
know?
a craft beer kind of guy?
I'm a hazy guy. Hazy IPA guy.
All
Low
right.
on the IBUs, high on the ABVs.
Do you know anything about this?
You know what I mean?
No, what do you mean? No, totally not.
Where's like a go-to spot for you here in town? When you're not training, of course.
No, like Dos Sirenos downtown is a cool brewery. They always
Okay.
have like different rotating stuff, but I just like trying like they have like Weathered Souls here.
Yeah.
They closed,
They
which that
are.
sucks.
No, at the end of, well, whenever this thing airs, it's probably close when this thing comes
Yeah,
out.
they were
So,
closing down, which that I really like their
Great
their
beer.
Weathered Souls IPA.
Yeah.
But I just like going to whatever like restaurant that I'm at and I just try whatever local beer that there is there.
Yeah.
Like whenever I travel to fight, right, in like Utah, you know, after the fight, I always like to go check out what they got.
Oh yeah, you'll
Just, like,
definitely have
picking
190.
that.
You'll get 190.
Yeah, easy.
Real quick, we asked Bam.
165.
We asked Bam on our last.
Hey, but when I'm retired, though, I'm gonna hit an HGH or something. I
Steroids.
see like a I'm gonna hit my Macho Randy Man era.
we asked Bam in our first episode, you know, after your fight, where like, what drive-through are you hitting, or what meal are you going to be ordering? What's the meal when you're done?
I always rip pizza as like an appetizer, like a slice.
Just to get the smell.
Yeah,
Oh,
and then dude, I'm like such a sicko for like the birria and like the ramen. You know?
Yeah, the good stuff.
Yeah.
Grease.
Yeah, dude.
with a beer.
With a beer, like. But honestly, I'm a standard double cheeseburger guy.
What's your Whataburger order? What number?
Patty
are you?
melt.
Patty melt.
Patty melt.
Yeah.
To be honest, though, lately I've been more of a Pete Terry's guy.
That's the way.
Have you tried Burger Boy?
I do like Burger Boy.
Burger Boy's best
That's a
burger in
good
the
burger,
city.
man.
Best
burger
burgers in the city.
Best ones in the city.
You think so?
Yeah, yeah. They also follow me on Instagram, so I'm
Ah,
There's a hot take.
There's the plug.
it.
There's
Yeah,
the plug
yeah.
right there. Yeah, right.
That's a hot
Best
take.
burger in the city.
Frontier Burger. I like Frontier Burger.
Oh, that's a good burger.
It's a spin off of Jim's. You know what I mean? Frontier Burger.
That's good.
Get the double.
They do the
double
drive-thru, right?
Yeah.
They used to have one on 604 and
Right next
Shakespeare
to the
when they
gym.
closed it.
Right next to the gym.
Next to the
What
gym.
about that other? There's another burger place here in town I've never been to, but it's on Broadway. It's a local place.
Pete Terry's?
No.
There's only it's a one of. He's like Burger King.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
But you know what? Because I love burgers. I'm a burger connoisseur and a beer connoisseur. And, man, I always tell people this. A meat's a meat, but it's the bun. If you can get the right
It's all
combination,
about that potato bun, dude.
that's it.
Potato bun.
If you get the
ain't meat.
right one,
like
or
that
sourdough bun, or, you know, it's
Christian
the
loves
bun.
that
If you
meat.
get yourself a good
Mike
bun,
said it. Mike said it.
Meat ain't meat.
it's a meat.
Mole.
Mole is
You guys
good.
like
Yeah.
mole?
I like mole. That's great.
I like
It
that
doesn't
dark
sit well
mole,
with
you
me.
know?
That chocolate in it.
What's your favorite food? What about you? After fighting? You're
He was
like a milkshake guy.
He was a Luby's guy.
Matter of fact, after weigh-in, or after a fight, I love the enchiladas at Luby's. No, I don't know what it was. There was something about
Reminded you of the
I used to work
cafeteria
there.
food.
I used to work there.
I'm telling you what, though, I worked at
I used
Lou's
to
for a
work at
bit too
Lou's.
when I was 18, and
Yeah,
it's like slept on.
I was
Their
15,
mac and
16,
cheese.
17, and I worked at Luby's, and man, the enchiladas, rice and beans enchiladas, so good.
I bet it was
Nice,
good.
yeah, this was back in the
80s?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
When it was real cheese.
They have the grandmas in there.
Yeah, the real
See,
good.
I can't
I
eat
worked
that.
at cheese in the factory
Luby's
somewhere.
kinda
I would eat
down,
that.
I don't know. I couldn't eat at Luby's. I had a thing. I'm a weird guy. I just have a thing with older people.
Old people eating.
What?
Yeah.
Ageist?
Yeah.
That's what we don't eat around us.
That's a
anymore.
hot take.
He doesn't eat around us.
And now I'm realizing, hey, I'm getting up there, and
Wait,
I'm
what
like,
do you mean? What is it? What's the thing?
You're just trying to dribble your food a little bit.
It's just a thing, man. I feel like I don't want to. I also have misophonia, which I developed a long time ago. Misophonia, look it up.
And you passed it on to all of us.
We all have it.
It's
We all have
the subtle sounds of crunching, of smacking.
Like
the
if I'm
food.
here eating and I can hear you chewing, I'm like, man, I can't be here. You know what I mean?
You have to leave.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave.
we all
Much
have
less somebody older spilling or it's on
What's
their
your
face.
movie? You just get up and walk out. You
So
say,
it's
okay,
like it's on
I got
stereo
to take
when
this
they're
call. I got to
eating
go.
it.
No, let them know.
Look at me, someone
I'm getting
snapping
up.
their gums or
I'm gonna get
snapping
up.
their fingers or whatever, and you're like, oh my.
Like
God.
my wife can make a killing on YouTube just doing ASMR. She can make a killing on YouTube making like just eating ASMR because like she just so loud. I don't know why she doesn't do it, but I'm just like, man, I gotta get in the other room. You know what I mean?
I've never heard of misophonia, but I believe it.
Yeah, look it up.
So like you
It's like
can't
Chinese
unhear.
water torture almost, like
Yeah.
that constant drip or that like little crunch.
I'd
in
prefer
the back.
Chinese water torture.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
CJ, thanks so much for being in the lounge today. October 12th.
Yep.
You know we're gonna be watching. It's
All of
almost
San
when,
Antonio's gonna be behind you. man.
Amazing.
whenever you fight, I just feel like it's one of us. Like it's just like, particularly in our family,
Yeah,
It's family.
for sure.
our wives are into it.
It's
We're-
an
they're
uncomfortable
nervous.
feeling, honestly.
I know,
It's
you
like
guys always tell me.
it's like watching him fight. It was just the most uncomfortable feeling,
Yeah.
and I get the same thing from you, man.
It's that same feeling of like when we watch you, it's like, man, he's there, like, hell yeah. But then it's like, damn, he's there. He's like,
there.
you know
Oh,
what I mean?
he's-
It's
he
that,
got
it's
him.
that thing. I'm sure the city feels like that, but just being around you and knowing you for as long as we have, it's definitely that
Oh,
same
yeah.
feeling. It feels like if I was watching my brother fight.
It's great to have that connection too, because like even when I'm out there and I take a moment to think about that, I'm like, there's a lot of people here that are sharing this connected moment with me, and not just like, oh look, there. It's like no, they're like kind of holding their breath for the
We're
next
all there,
15
yeah.
minutes, you know?
Yeah,
and that's
we're all there.
amazing, man. I'm really grateful to have that from y'all.
Yeah, man, we're all
Every
there
time.
with you. Good luck. You know, you already know you got us in your corner.
100%.
Good luck the rest of the way in training camp. Give it your all. Nothing you haven't done before.
Right.
Just know that we're with you, man. If you ever need anything, we're here, man.
Amen.
We totally appreciate you being here.
Appreciate y'all, man. Thanks for having me.
Sweet.
Thanks
man.
for having me.
Absolutely.
See you guys at the gym.
For sure.
Yeah,
See you in 30
just to
minutes.
fight.
Yeah, exactly. We just
give me a
follow each
ride?
other from here to there.
Guys, if you like this content, please share this content. Like, comment, subscribe. Leave a comment wishing CJ good luck.
Right.
If you like something on our hot takes, if you disagree with something, let us know. We're all game. Thank you so much for all the love that you've been giving us so far in our first couple of podcasts. We're only getting better. We're only growing more. Let us know who you would like to see in our podcast or on this TV show. You may be right. Who knows, right? Leave us some comments. Like, comment, subscribe. Please share this. Thank you for joining us. Watch out for next week.